Hello colleagues. The ability to work with artificial intelligence is becoming a trending skill in 2023. With 300 million people at risk of losing their jobs due to artificial intelligence, according to Goldman Sachs, prompt engineering could be an advantage. Will you lose your job? Maybe. Or maybe not. But it is more likely that you will remain in demand if you are familiar with the material in this video and will be able to apply this skill in your work. Today we will reveal the magic of prompt engineering in detail. Prompt engineering is a concept or practice in natural language processing, NLP, or artificial intelligence, AI, that involves discovering or designing inputs, also called prompts, that yield desirable or useful results or outputs. A prompt can be a sequence of text like a question, a sentence, or a block of code. There are now hundreds of projects based on prompt requests to ChatGPT. This was noticeable when such projects simply stopped working at the moment when ChatGPT had problems. By the way, I already have my top ideas in this direction. If it is interesting to hear them, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. What is prompt engineering in practice? We will analyze using the example of a separate task that appeared on Upwork. I said before that if you want to explore something, then study the demand. Let's do that today. Task. I am looking for a skilled prompt engineer to take a look at the current chain of thought I have initially created for my new summarization site and offer insights and general guidance. You can check it out here and let me know what you think, alongside the Figma consisting of the proposed design of the site. The curious thing is that this is a task that reveals the idea of a startup. With the ability to work with API ChatGPT, you can launch the same startup for your local or niche audience. Yes, no one knows yet whether the startup will be popular. But in fact, the developments for its implementation are described in some detail. A comprehensive snapshot of everything news startup. Globally, the idea is to process the news flow. It is about automatically identifying some key news items, capturing the impact of the news on the industry, or predicting where this news might lead. The author of the task reveals his ideas and developments on prompt requests. Given the article, create a summary of its most important points. In addition to the prompt request, the text of the news is specified, as in all subsequent requests. The result is structured information as requested. Based on impact and influence on the United States and the world as a whole, determine how these news articles would rank in terms of importance given the context of how each article intertwines and affects the world when factored as a whole. Create a summary in bullet point format based on that 1 day, 1 week, and 1 month timeframe of the most important pieces in those articles. Think of it as looking at the news landscape and formulating a summary for those timeframes. Based on the articles and the presumption that this information exists in a vacuum irrespective of current events, what is your hypothesis on what will happen due to cause and effect from a global perspective? Determine whether it contains political bias. To do this, imagine a series of statements that describe political bias in news articles, and then ask the model to predict whether each statement applies to the given article. For each statement, use a scale of 0 to 1 to indicate the level of bias, where 0 indicates no bias and 1 indicates extreme bias. The startup assumes the distribution of similar results to paid subscribers. That is, some news appears, and even without reading the news, you can predict the consequences of this news for your business. I like. Is there any value in this? Definitely, there is. Yes, we probably won't have time to look back as news publications will try to implement such assessments in their news portals, but the whole point comes down to the right prompt request. For example, I like the request, evaluate the emotional tone of the letter on a scale from 0 to 100. Where 0 is the client is angry and dissatisfied, and 100 is the client is calm and satisfied, indicating the text of the letter itself. By integrating such functionality into the CRM system, you can create a customer satisfaction graph as you communicate with him. Based on this rating, you can even make tools for automatically assessing the quality of your manager's work. But let's not talk about the fact that this can be done. but that it will 100% appear in the functionality of CRM systems shortly. It's not the distant future, it's something we'll see very soon. The ability to correctly compose a request can be the basis for new features for services that we have been working with for a long time and that are familiar to us. Competition in the environment of services and applications will sparkle with new colors. This is even evident because interest in the forgotten Edge browser and the Bing search engine, in particular, has increased after Microsoft began testing its artificial intelligence. ChatGPT is not the only area where prompt engineering can be used. The correctness of the request to Midjourney is also a useful skill. With the advent of the Midjourney API, graphic startups will also appear even more, because the same stable diffusion, as for me, is more difficult to launch a startup. It's possible that by the time you watch this video, Midjourney will have already launched its API, and simple and unique tools for startups will be in the hands of developers. Also, do not forget that artificial intelligence is rapidly developing in generating 3D locations, creating 3D objects, generating music, and much more. Therefore, the ability to compose a prompt query will be very useful. The world is changing. Get ready for change with the new prompt engineering skill.